Hey, sorry it took a day to get back to you. I was out sick. Um, what I'm interested in showing you is some of the strategies that I would go about, but let me know because I haven't reached out to you yet and asked you exactly what you're looking for, but I did try a few searches and I wanted to show you what I came up with. So, one interesting thing is if you go to the catalog, it's kind of like it's got a lot of history, it's got social science, poli sci, and kind of a hot mess of things. And I started out searching for United States or Kissinger or State Department. I suppose you could put in like the names of presidents that were around at the same time as all of this was going on. And then I put Khmer Rouge, in, gotta spell it right. I put that in quotes so those two would stick together, right? But then I was like, well, it's also like Cambodia or Kampuchea. I don't know if I spelled that right. And I think I made this too big. So I did communication or rhetoric or diplomacy. And I was just like, wow, is this too much? So when I searched, there's like, there's some books and foreign policy, um, and it depends on what you're allowed to use in the class or what you're encouraged to use. But there's some good stuff in here, but a lot of it's in books. So if you go to peer-reviewed journals, there is specific analyses of communications or events especially, or things that went on. Or they take like a long view and try to examine like causality in political science and things like that. So that's one way to go. But then I thought, oh, let me try a different database. And I thought, well, I could try communication, but in political science, that's about communication, especially rhetoric and things like that. So let me show you what I found as a different strategy in the political science database. So there's a whole bunch of them, but the librarian in charge of poli sci recommends this one. And so I looked for all this stuff and I looked for it in the abstract, and it was just kind of a dud. I only got 9 things. And then I realized, you know, the word or the phrase Khmer Rouge is so important because it has like all of this baggage tied to it. So like foreign interventions in a government, or proxy wars, or communism, or like despotic tyranny. And so on this one, instead, I want this to be like the title, and let's ignore everything else, because what we could probably do, if it's the most important thing, Khmer Rouge, in a political science database, they're going to talk about the United States, and they're going to talk about foreign policy and things like that. And they're going to talk about the trials that happened afterwards. I'd recommend looking at all of these because, like, after the event happened and they began to come to like international courts or in-country courts, they are going to talk about the effects of policy and former people and the communications that they had. If you wanted to, you could add rhetoric or communication or policy or debate. I suppose there's a lot of things you could throw in there. And that would narrow it down. But yeah, legacies of state repression, Chinese aid. So, there's like book reviews inside the politics. So in politics, we can probably call it communication. If you did this same search in a communication database, then we might get into like the deep rhetorical stuff. Or not rhetorical, the rhetoric. So I'm going to go to advanced search, and I'm just going to put in. So in this database, we know that it's all comm journals. So we can safely say, if we're looking for something that's in the abstract that has this loaded term, we're probably going to find a lot of what we're looking for. Hopefully we can find it in languages that we speak. So there's testimonial practices. rhetorical analysis. Ooh, there's translation. There's representations. Maybe that's in film. Photographs. Richard Avedon's a photographer. Political narratives. Is this kind of what you were looking for? And here we have like inferences to people who are politicians in the United States. There's U.S. force and policy. So dig around and let me know if there are specific things that you are interested in having help with. But a good practice to think about is that you've got your main idea that you want to say, and each of these articles might only talk about like a little sliver contributing to what you want to say. So it might be that you don't find an article that says what you want to say, but just a bunch of little pieces of evidence that support it along the way. But I'm happy to help, and I think it's a great topic, and let me know how I can help.